and you see how he interacts with people, he looks like he's constantly feels like he's like undermined or people like aren't
That's his
giving him the
fuel.
trust that he needs, you
That's
know.
that's Spencer Dinwiddie's fuel is that somebody's doesn't believe in me, or someone is disrespecting me. Like if you just look at the way he plays and the way he talks to referees and the whole nine, he he wants to be you know tested. He likes that to self antagonize himself, to hype himself up, but I don't think that's what's happening here. I think it's a simple, if we applied Occam's razor, you fire your agent, you fire your agent because you don't believe he's representing you right. And
Right.
while you just hired this guy, he's not a willy nilly guy that's gonna flip agents every other year. He had an agent. The agent was, helped him, come into the league and get to the Nets, and now he fires that agent, hires Rock Nation with the rest of the team, and then right before the off season starts, you're not represented by anybody. Nobody's beating on the table, beating their fist on the table for you. While you worry about playing ball, something has happened. I think Sean Marks has told him just like he told D'Angelo Russell last year, and it's sad. I think it's a mistake. I really do. What do you think of it? Let's not worry about what it's for. Let's say it's for the greatest thing ever. What do you think about losing Dinwiddie?
I guess I don't have as big of an issue with it in part because I honestly I found his act a little bit last year. It's funny because I've gone very back and forth with him. I thought the year that D'Lo was getting a lot of attention, I thought Dinwiddie was actually playing way better. Like I thought the team played better when Dinwiddie was like the primary guy, and then last year when Dinwiddie was kind of getting all the All Star buzz, I honestly thought the way he was playing was not even particularly that great, and I thought he was, and I kind of got sick of the whole like always like whining for fouls and then not getting back on D and all that stuff, and like. Do I think it's funny because I'm someone who definitely appreciates like loyalty in sports, but I also have kind of just been changed over the last couple of years with seeing these teams basically get put together in a couple of weeks and still be able to win. And I think we all just kind of have to get used to the fact that like this whole loyalty in sports thing, as it goes both ways, is just not as much of a thing. And like, look, Dinwiddie spent a lot of time here. He it was a two-way street. You know, like he got his opportunity, and the Nets also I think helped him. I'm sure Kenny helped him a lot in developing. But if if it's the right trade, then it's the right trade, and I would be okay with it. I mean, I don't want them to trade him uh, just because I think we have like too many guards or whatever. Because I think there's something to having Levert and Dinwiddie and Kyrie. But if it's to get a four like we've talked about on a million podcasts or whatever it is, I think that's fine. Look, I think there's a big difference between like there were some rumors earlier this week about Kemba being involved in a trade for Drew Holiday, and like that type of stuff I find to be like insane. Like I think signing a guy to a max and then a year later being like, actually, like we're gonna ship you out. I think like which I think like you combine like what Danny Ainge did with like Isaiah Thomas and then like the Hayward injury happening and all that. Like there's like some karma on that team of just like treating players like they're just different chips on a game board that I just don't think is sustainable. So so I do think there are limits to it, but I don't think trading Dinwiddie would be one of those, especially because I think he can opt out after the end of this deal. So he like I think they're probably gonna like want to pay it. He's gonna want to make even more money than he is, probably seeing how some of these other contracts have gone. So
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole reason why Spencer Dinwiddie is most important to the Nets than anyone else is because he is the best backup point guard in the NBA. And the Nets are a team that need a backup point guard more than any other team in the NBA. We know Kyrie is going to be hurt. We know he's going to be excessively load managed. We know this,
nope.
right? And if your plan is to play Karras at point guard, then that's foolish. If your plan is, we'll get some G League guy, you're going to lose games because that is a large chasm between what Spencer Dinwiddie can do and I don't know, Tim Frazier or who's another guy, you name a G League point guard. Spencer Dinwiddie is a rare find. You stepped in shit, Sean Marks. You did it again. But if Kyrie goes down, and we know it is highly likely he goes down, it's not me wishing bad on him. It's just the reality of having that particular player, especially what he showed you last year, especially because of his resistance with working with your own development team, right? He has his own people. He does it his own way. You cannot depend on this kid being healthy. So if you lose Dinwiddie, it better be before a piece that guarantees a championship.
Yeah.
Because right now, Sean Marks, only thing you could do is fuck this up. You have Kevin Durant. You have Kyrie Irving. And even when you have Kevin Durant, Karis LeVert, and Spencer Dinwiddie with Joe Harris sitting in the corner shooting threes, you have the best offense in the NBA, hands down. The question is this going to be a top 3 offense ever? You don't need Harden. Only thing you would do if you get Harden is go, okay, Kyrie, it's your turn to score. Now it's your turn to score, Kevin. Now it's your turn to score, Harden. That's stupid. You'll never satisfy the gluttony of these players to score. Never. It's ridiculous to even come up with that concept. But so I don't worry about Harden. I refuse to believe that. Let's hope that's not the Rona. I refuse to believe that Sean Marks is that stupid. I refuse. I don't believe it. I won't apply it to my thinking because not only are you capped out, you have now created massive holes that you have to fix. And you know what people are telling me? They're like, yeah, if they trade Jarrett Allen, it's okay. We have Nick Claxton. What has Nick Claxton showed you that he's going to carry the Nets and those off the bench minutes at center? He's not ready for that. We're going to weaken our team in order to bring in another superstar that does exactly what we have, the greatest person who ever did that thing, and that's scoring. Then we have the other guard that is the closest, if not better, at scoring, and he doesn't need the ball in his hand. He could do the off-ball thing too. And you want to ruin that? You have some young guys that could carry you throughout the seasons. They might have injuries, but it doesn't matter. If you have all your team that you have right now and just use that mid-level exception the smart way, you could go get Christian Wood and nobody is beating the Nets next year. My young Sam, I'm telling you, nobody is beating us next year if they just replace a couple of players. This James Harden thing is a symptom of a disease that we have as Net fans. We covet these other players. This is, and you want to know what? I'm not hearing about Drew Holiday. I told you that was Griffin. that was David Griffin's wet dream, is to get Karis LeVert or to get a combination of Jarrett Allen and Dinwiddie to save his team. And all he would have to give up is Drew Holiday, a player he doesn't really want anyway, a player that's not even on the same timeline as his team, a player his owner doesn't want to pay.
I'm gonna push what I'll push back on you on is is I do think that if you can package Dinwiddie and Allen for like a big time upgrade, like a Holiday, for example, I think I guess I just personally think there's a big difference both in terms of trade value and in terms of actual value and upside in terms of dealing Dinwiddie versus dealing Levert. And I think if you can make a deal that gets you some type of big time A minus A ish asset without giving up Levert, and you're giving up a combo of Allen and Dinwiddie, that I'm just not. To be honest, I'm completely open to that because at the end of the day,
Okay.
this is what I'll say. This is
How
what
do
I'll
you
say.
get a backup center? If you add,
But a rim running, but the thing is rim running centers like are I mean like look at this draft, like these guys are coming out every single year, and and to be honest, like we've heard forever that Claxton might be the second most talented guy like on the team. So like if he's already in year 2 now, so if he is, then like I think if the Nets are
are you gonna pay? Are you gonna pay Drew Holiday the supermax next year?
I think you can try to look. I mean, you could also ask him like, are you willing to like cut a little bit because we're trying to obviously
Do you
work.
think Drew Holiday gives you $27 million a year in impact? Like
I think I've heard enough. I've listened to enough players consistently say that he is the most underrated defensive perimeter guy in the league and is up there as a like book it. He should be first team All NBA every single year. On top of the fact that he can score and shoot, that I think I like that to me is a guy that I would be willing to deal. If you told me, look, they're giving up Levert and Dinwiddie and picks for him, I would be upset about that because I just don't think from a value perspective that helps. But if you told me we're giving up like Dinwiddie, Allen, and like Musa or something, I've
seen this trade before. Let me take you down memory lane. The New York Knicks had a point guard by the name of Rod Strickland. He happens to be Kyrie Irving's godfather. He was amazing, borderline all-star player. The Knicks foolishly traded that player for the best defensive guard in the NBA, to team that the best defensive guard in the NBA, a champion, a guy who actually was a champion and an all-star. His name was Mo Cheeks. Do you hear Knicks fans talking fondly about the Mo Cheeks years?
No.
This would be the equivalent of doing that. And you're adding an injury-prone guy, a guy that missed 30 games. Excuse me. A guy that missed 30 games almost every single year except the year he got his contract. Okay? Let me read the games that he was healthy for.
He played 60 games last year. He played 67 the year before. He had that
67 games is not good enough when you have Kyrie Irving that may not play 50.
But I think if you have Levert, and I think just so many of these guards are available like constantly that I just don't see it as that big of a deal. And I guess my thing is, I think if you can go into the playoffs and that you can basically have a lineup of Kyrie, Holiday, Levert, Joe Harris, and like Durant basically at the 5 as the Nets version of the Golden State Death lineup, I think that team is legitimately impossible to defend.
That is so far. Who is your Draymond Green in the Death lineup there? Who plays the defense? Do you forget that Klay Thompson is an elite NBA defender himself?
I think having Holiday, Durant, who's like a defender, and Levert, who's a decent defender. You're good.
But look, my thing here is we're building this misshapen team of names we recognize. And for what? It doesn't make us better. it makes the Nets much older. Now everybody in your